All right, today we're here with Rick Holtz from Holtz Leather Company to talk about small business and specifically e-commerce in 2021. So, Rick, if you want to start off by just telling us a bit about you and
Sure.
the story of Holtz Leather.
Yeah, Holtz Leather was started in our basement after experiencing some humbling failures in business. I've been I don't know, I love business and I love e-commerce specifically. I've been doing e-commerce, gosh, since I was probably 20, 21 years old. I've been started out selling on eBay, moved into Amazon in their early days, built myself up to a top 100 seller on eBay. Went through a time of extreme humbling where we lost everything. But it's in those low moments where you really learn a lot about yourself, your family, business, your values, and the things that you focus on. Came out of that. My family, my wife, and my children rallied around me and really rallied around the business. They became Holtz Leather, and we started a family business in our basement. Really coming out of losing everything. We just came out of being evicted from a rental house that we had no prospects of going in. We had no money, and Colleen, my wife, had been doing some research on Etsy and started researching some things, and one sale led to two, and we were able to grow that and build it and reinvest it into the business. And then we wanted to make something that was not imported, that was handcrafted inside the United States, sourcing the materials from the U.S. We had done a lot of work before where we were importing products from China, and just didn't want that as a family business. We really wanted to focus on something more heritage based. Something that is generational that we could pass on to our kids, and that we had full control over the production of the product, because when you're buying something from China, it's like you have very little control over the product itself. And so that birthed Holtz Leather, and we had instant success, and we built on that success and turned the revenues over on top of itself, and worked many late nights. My kids worked many late nights and did not take a paycheck. They worked for free, as did we. And we just grew it and grew it. And over the course of 6 years, we went from that basement to I think the peak that we had last year was about a little over 80 employees. And so we've just watched it take off and bloom, and it's been really neat to be a part of it. I feel like a lot of time we're just kind of holding on for the roller coaster ride.
Right. So, talk a little bit about kind of the e-commerce sides of the business, because really that's how Holtz grew so quickly. Would that be accurate to say?
Oh, absolutely. We are predominantly e-commerce. I mean, I would say 95% of our business right now is e-commerce. We do have a retail store that does very well. In fact, a little surprising, because I never really wanted to be in retail. Didn't want to get into it. And a buddy of mine was building out a space, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a retail space where you can do production above it if you want." And I was like, "Yeah, sounds good. We'll give it a try." And I was pleasantly surprised at the results of the retail store. It's consistently done very well. So there's still that arm of people, or those people who enjoy shopping, and we wanted to give that experiential shopping. So our store, if you were to walk into it, you'd be overwhelmed with the scents and the smells of leather and service that I would say is off the charts. Really try to make it about an experience.
Hmm. So the past year and a half has been a lot of changes for businesses from all different sectors, whether it's e-commerce, retail. Could you talk a little bit about how kind of the past year or so has kind of transformed business for Holtz?
Yeah, we were really nervous last year, 2020, when COVID hit. Because everything kind of shut down overnight, and we did too. It's like we saw our sales tank almost immediately. We had to lay off an extensive portion of our workforce, which is very, very hard to do. And we had to go back to the data, and that's what e-commerce is all about. It's all data driven. You're looking at the data to determine what is successful and what isn't successful. And so we were able to get into the data, and we determined real early on, that home goods was an area that was that we were seeing success with our products. So within a week, we were launching new products. We were prototyping new products. This is the beauty of having full manufacturing control. We were able to design some new home style products. We launched them within a week and a half, took pictures, put them up on e-commerce, ran some ads, and boom, we were back selling. And we were able within 2 weeks to bring all of our people back to work. And we pushed those home products very hard through the year of 2020. 2020, hands down, was our best year as we saw the country shift from retail shopping onto the e-commerce platform. And we were already on the e-commerce platform. That's where we were. That was our bread and butter. So we were poised to just do really well. And 2020 was an incredible year for us.
So that's really impressive, especially a year when, a lot of businesses kind of probably weren't expecting to be as successful, to really kind of, like you said, go and dig into the data to find kind of a new playbook that would be successful in 2020. So now kind of transitioning into more kind of where we're at now, how have you seen e-commerce continue to change as we're now halfway through 2021?
E-commerce has changed dramatically, and it's fascinating to me to see the change just inside less than a year. I mean, you look at March of 2020 when things kind of all started going down. It was still very heavily data driven, and that's how we navigated through the year. January comes, or actually toward the end of our Christmas holiday season, I'm starting to see a trend that I can't quite figure out. And we go into January, and I'm thinking, okay, it's just the end of the year. People are nervous. There's not as much gift buying because gift season is our big season. So any gift season, Christmas, Father's Day, Mother's Day, those type of seasons are our big selling seasons. But I saw kind of Christmas starting to go flat, and I was like, maybe it's just people aren't gathering like I thought they would. And so we go into January. January turns into February, March, and things are just not improving like they had been over the previous 6 years. We've always seen extensive growth year over year, and here we're going into 2021, and I'm lost. I'm trying to look at data, and we do a lot of advertising on social platforms, and we're looking at the data on these social platforms, and we're like, something is definitely wrong. Something's not right. The data is saying that we're having success, but we're not seeing the result on the backside of the website. And it took a while, really, within the last, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks, and we're in July right now, to really pinpoint what was going on, because we kept just trying to figure it out, and our sales have been crippled throughout the year. But what we found is that tracking cookies, well, first everybody thought it was iOS 14, and iOS 14 is where our head was. And so we were trying to look at everything through iOS 14. It's like, okay, we can't market to iOS 14 the same way. But as I started digging, because we tried to figure out some way around the iOS 14, and it just still wasn't, things just weren't adding up. It's like, this doesn't make sense. The data is just everywhere. And so I started digging a little bit more. Our team started digging more, and we stumbled upon cookie tracking. So a cookie is a piece of code that's put on your computer when you land on a website. So say you go to your favorite coffee website, and which might be your website, and you place a tracking cookie on the browser that is visiting your website. And that cookie communicates back with different social platforms and gives them data on how you engage with the web. And so we as marketers use that data to market to you. And that's why you see ads served to you that are tailored to your interest. So if you're a coffee enthusiast, as you are, then as you browse the website, you're going to see retargeting ads that deal with, maybe Costa Rican coffees or Colombian coffees, or you're going to get ads about coffee cups or coffee tea towels. I don't know. I mean, you're going to get served all these different ads based on your thing. We also know from those cookies if you're an active shopper. So if you're spending money on the internet, so that information gets passed through. So if you go to your espresso supplier or whoever and you buy something, well, we know that. We have that information. But what we found was that this year, the browsers are no longer tracking cookies. And so cookies are going away. And that is a very nerve-wracking position to be in if you're in e-commerce business. So if you're in e-commerce business, you are no doubt feeling what we're feeling right now, and that is really disturbing and troubling for us as marketers.
So now that we've kind of identified some of these kind of challenges with the kind of e-commerce right now, what have been some of the kind of techniques or maybe ideas y'all have come up with to kind of work with this new set of rules or this new playbook?
Yeah, that's the thing is like I've always I had my wife's cousin is a business owner up in Chicago, and he owns a trucking company. And I was telling him kind of some of our problems that we're having. He's like, listen, he's like, tell me the playbook, tell me how the rules are. And he said, I can play the game. And I said, so up to this year, we haven't had the playbook. We haven't, or maybe we just didn't know, but we didn't know what the rules of the game were. So now knowing what the rules of the game are, and knowing that cookies aren't being tracked, and knowing that iOS 14 has their thing, it's like it changes the whole game. The whole game of e-commerce marketing is changing overnight, right in front of our eyes. And if we're not keeping up or trying to figure out another solution, then it could be detrimental to a lot of e-commerce businesses right now, because e-commerce has been all about pinpoint marketing, and now we're going to a billboard style marketing, which has never been what e-commerce is. So it's going to change the way, and it's really going to affect the mom and pops, the small to medium sized businesses, because we don't have the ad budgets of like a big box store like Best Buy or Walmart or any of these big brands, REI, Pottery Barn. They have big budgets, and they will be able to figure this out and weather the storm. But for us, the small guy, the medium-sized business, if you're e-commerce, you're really trying to figure things out. And so I think for us, it's going to be real important that we share what we're finding, that we talk about it, that we discuss it, because that's what's going to keep the small, medium-sized businesses going, especially if you're e-commerce. And so what we're trying to go back to the data. We've tried different data sources. Talked to my wife's cousin up in Chicago, and he recommended looking into a new data software. And we've been testing that. It's called Hyros, Hyros. It is a little pricey, but it so far is giving us a little bit better tracking. But I think as browsers continue to not track cookies, that it's going to get harder and harder for even platforms like that to work. Some things that we have, and we're doing a lot of experimenting right now, but that's what internet marketing is all about. And so I don't want to focus and be like, oh, it's all doom and gloom. It's all doom and gloom. No, this is the challenge. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're all about the challenge. You're all about rising to the challenge and figuring it out. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, you might have to reset. Yes, you got, headaches and all this stress that comes with it, and you bear it. But dig down deep. This is an opportunity to really excel and be different and identify yourself as a different business going into it. You have to think differently, and you have to test. And that's the beauty of e-commerce marketing. I'm like, you can what I call fail fast. You can try something. If it doesn't work within a week, you can nix it and go on to the next thing. You can come up with a theory and say, hey, what about this? And you try it, and it's like, it didn't work how I thought, but I did notice this, and it creates another idea. And these ideas build upon ideas until you really start to identify what will work within e-commerce.
Because if anything, this reminds me of a book I remember we went over. And now I'm trying to remember, but it's something about like in the conflict is where you kind of find those opportunities for success. And if anything, seems to be kind of the essence of being an entrepreneur is like, 2020 was kind of thought to be just this huge challenge, like, oh, we're just going to go under. But instead, we found that was opportunities to make it an even better year than expected.
Right.
And so if anything, this is maybe a continuation of just kind of the business lifestyle, if you might say. And so with that, what are some of then these new kind of like ways that you're kind of experimenting to find a new success?
So, and let's back up here. Yeah. We haven't totally defined what's working and what's not working. So right now, like just this past weekend, I just decided let's look at what was working last year. Let's bring it back. Let's see if anything happens. Yes, we were able to put some ads up that were working last year, and we saw increase in sales on our website, but we weren't able to identify where it was coming from. So there's still a lot of challenge here. And so one thing we have found success in is that's in retail, which is outside of e-commerce, but we have both. So we've talked about expanding into multiple retail store locations, but one thing Holtz hasn't done up to this point is gone into wholesale. We just have not, in our 6 years, felt like we needed to launch out into wholesale. We didn't feel like the timing was right. But now seeing that there is a shift, and I think that the shift is going to continue as COVID lifts, people are going to shift their shopping back to retail shopping. And so we're seeing this as possible opportunity to create a website that is tailored toward wholesale and marketing to companies that are looking for wholesale. So we're trying to find niche markets. So thinking through where the world is right now and what's kind of emerging, and then trying to find niches within that. So for us, it's like, okay, we see wholesale as an opportunity because retail stores are coming back to life. There's also supply issues inside the country right now. So if you're importing anything from China, from overseas, you are no doubt experiencing longer import times, lots of delays. You're experiencing supply shortages. And that also is an opportunity for us because we're American made. We can step in here. So here's a marketing opportunity. It's like, okay, our marketing can be geared around how it's made in USA. It's made here. We can supply your retail store with products that are tailored to your store. We have a wide range of products from home goods to leather goods to candles. And so all of these things are like, oh my goodness, we're poised to really transition and pivot in a way that could really be successful on the last part of the year, which is really what we need going into this. And another area that we're seeing kind of a niche opportunity is the wedding industry. The wedding industry is rebounding very strong. People that have put off their weddings all last year are ready to have their wedding. Let me tell you what, they are ready, and they should be. And so it's a celebratory time. So maybe it's time to put up focus and energy on a wedding website, to where we put our gifts and our products on a wedding website, and we drive traffic around that. So we have a website called Heritage Wedding where we sell wedding products, and it's our product line on another website, but it's tailored around the wedding industry. And so we're going to start driving ads to that website and see what our success is there. Some other things that we have found success with on social platforms are, and it's really more about the traffic, because we're not getting good data right now. So it's like, okay, how do we nurture these customers? And so we're trying to we're testing some native ads, which are more storytelling ads. So Colleen and I, we have 11 kids, and so there's always a story at our house, and there's always some drama that is happening. And so we're just taking bits and pieces of things that we're doing at home, and we're incorporating them into story. Like Colleen is the griller in our house. She always has been. I don't grill food. That's not what I do. But I love to sit out there and sip and watch her grill. And so we did a real quick picture, and I wrote a little blurb about kind of Colleen and I's experience in grilling, because typically grilling is a masculine thing where the guy's out there, you get near little, and she's out there and she's got her spatula, and she's running these big Primo grills. She's got 2 Primo grills, and she masters these grills, and she makes some incredible stuff. But I just get to sit out there and watch her. So I told this story, and I said, I'm just going to test. Well, we tested it with an email. So we put it out with an email. It was a successful email. The storytelling gravitated towards people. It got their attention, and it was real, and it was authentic, and that's who we are. And so I was like, I wonder if we could take the same email that we put out that we had great success with as an ad and see what kind of success that we would get with it. Now, ads typically, if you're running like a product ad, you might get if you're doing really well, you might get a 2% click-through rate. Now, click-through rate is if you put it up and 100 people see it, you might have 2 people that actually click the rate. That's a 2% click-through rate. And of those 2% that land on your website, a very small percentage actually convert. Anyways, so I was like, well, let's just see. So we put it up on social media, and we ran ads to the story. It's just me. I had a picture of me with a fly swatter and it looked like I was going to swat Colleen, and she's on the grill flipping chicken or something like that. And the ad has has I think when we launched it, had a 30% click-through rate. That means for every 100 people that see it, 30 of them are clicking through to see what the story is about, or what is this about. And so the higher your click-through rate, so if you're at a 2% click-through rate, your cost for that click is very high. But the more people that click that ad, it drives your cost all the way down. So say like our average at times can be $1 to $1.50 per click. Well, this ad was sitting at 8 and 9 cents per click, which is off the charts. Now, conversion side, we can't track if it's converting, so we're trying to figure out a way to gauge that and to tie that into some form of tracking. So we're still working on that. I'd love to talk about that maybe in our next podcast or whatever, if we get some feedback from people on what they're experiencing.
Yeah, that's really good insight, and especially I think a great story to kind of exemplify this experimentation technique that you've mentioned, and how, by trying those different things over and over again, eventually you'll start to see that success to kind of run down that path more to find out, hey, why is this working? How can we do more like this? So with that in mind, could you maybe kind of give some recommendations to other business owners who may be listening to this of just some how would you recommend, kind of with some of the things we talked about, what they should do kind of with experiencing some of these similar things we're going through?
Yeah, and that's challenging because, every business has a little different, a different way that they do things. But I would definitely say that if you're an e-commerce business and you are feeling your sales drying up and you're not quite understanding why, this is why. The tracking is affecting the sales dramatically right now. I would say, I would say that you probably need to reevaluate. Don't keep throwing good money after bad ads. If it's not converting, it's not working, start pulling your ads back, reset. You're going to have to reset. And we had to reset. And reset is a very hard thing. Sometimes you got to lay people off. Sometimes you've got to make hard decisions. But in those decisions, if you keep going and keep throwing money after ads that aren't converting, you're going to have major problems if you don't have deep pockets, and we don't. So we're a cash-based business, so we have to adjust quickly, and we had to reset, and that was very hard this year to have that reset. But now it's time for experimentation. I think the best thing that you can do is start researching. So if you're in a specific industry, start Googling, get on Google, start doing some searches, get on Reddit, start doing some searches on what people are finding. We have to pull together as small business owners, medium-sized business owners, that if you're on e-commerce, we've got to share data. We've got to talk to each other, because it's what's going to keep us all going in the right direction. And so I want to help out any way that I can. If I can provide some areas that we're having success, I definitely want to share those with fellow e-commerce businesses.
Absolutely. And I feel like this podcast is a great first step in that, is sharing all the ins and outs of things. I think oftentimes it's easy to just lead into talking about the successes of business or life. And I think a lot of times then, you feel left out if your business isn't experiencing that success, but talking through kind of all the highs and the lows of things, as well as I feel like, this key element that you discussed, which is the experimenting when you don't know what the path is. So you can kind of figure out where to go from there, is really kind of key to small business, key to a lot of areas of life. And I feel like a great way to kind of finish up today's podcast.
Sure.
So thanks again for tuning in on today's podcast, talking about small business. And we look forward to our next time to sit down and talk.